Hi guys! This is the Audiofool, and for today, we're going to review the Onkyo A9150 integrated amplifier. Onkyo has been around for a long time in the home audio industry, and everybody knows about them given that they're very popular with their home theater receivers. To be honest, I'm not quite a fan of Onkyo, as their home theater receiver was actually the first amplifier I seriously auditioned. It was great for watching movies, but just wasn't up to snuff with music. Afterwards, I just realized that I'm really more of a music lover, and from there, I transformed into the audiofool. So if you're curious about how modern Onkyo integrated amps sound, you'll be in for a treat. But before that, let's take a closer look. Up front, the central volume knob immediately grabs attention. It's not really good looking, but I like it that it reminds me of vintage integrated amps, aka old. Tone and balance controls, as well as speaker switch button, input indicators, as well as the headphone output. Like most amps, it's heavy on one side, so it's easier to accidentally drop. At the back, you have 8 binding posts for speaker switching, 2 coax and 2 optical digital inputs, 5 RCA inputs including a main in, for that 0% chance you're going to use this as a power amp since it only has 30 watts. A phono line in, and a variable and fixed line out. Frankly, I'm surprised at the size and weight of this given that, again, it can only do 30 watts at 8 ohms. But at least I know where the $500 went. First, I'll compare to my reference Schiit Ragnarok, both being fed by the Yggdrasil. I know, this amp is 3 times the cost, but yeah, it's always good to know how far or how close it is to my reference. And yeah, the rag sounds better. Bass notes are a bit more dense as well as having more textures in the rag. But the Onkyo actually makes more bass extension, which kinda add to the fun factor. The rag also sounds a lot cleaner and the soundstage is deeper as well, making it easier to separate instruments. Vocals in the Onkyo are actually airier, but decay is a bit too long and can become sibilant at times. The Onkyo is a little bit brighter with a little bit more brilliance, and the rag is the warmer amp, but still the rag sounds much juicier. As I mentioned, I was surprised that this amp can only do 30 watts considering the size, and now after listening to it, I'm also quite surprised by how it sounds. It actually is quite nice and engaging and sounds much more expensive than $500. The Ragnarok costs around $500 right now, but it definitely does not sound 3 times better, not even twice. So there's definitely a lot to like about this little amp considering it can drive the supposed to be hard to drive KEF LS50s. Of course, the volume knob is around the 1 o'clock mark in my listening room, but hey, it still sounds great. Next, let's compare to the Cambridge Audio CXA80. If you watch my review of the CXA80, you'd remember that I said it sounded good, but the younger brother, the CXA60, just offers better value since it sounds the same and it's slightly cheaper at the expense of 20 watts. I'm comparing them using their own built-in DAC, and similar to the RAG comparison, the CXA80 wins over the Onkyo. The CXA80 has more well-defined and controlled bass, the CXA80 has more transients and more details. It also sounds a little bit cleaner and a little bit clearer, despite having a richer, fatter tone. The vocals are slightly better in the Onkyo though, as the CXA80 sounds a little bit compressed and shouty. So again, I was surprised. I was actually expecting the Onkyo to sound better than the Cambridge Audio 6A80, considering how well it did against the Ragnarok. But instead, I'm a bit disappointed. It's not that it sounds bad. I was just expecting higher things, I suppose. So yeah, the amp side is great, but the DAC is the weakest link. Unlike the DAC of the CXA80, this one just doesn't sound as good, and you'd gain a lot if you upgrade the DAC. I actually like the DAC in my LG G6 phone better. What I like the most about this amp is that the amp sounds absolutely terrific, and it's one of the better amps in this price range. You have good mid-bass extension with decent grip, vocals are front and forward, and it's also detailed while still being fun and engaging. You also have a vintagey style look and vintagey controls if you're into that. Oh, and it can also drive the KEF LS50s. What I don't like about it is that the amp sounds excellent, but the DAC sucks balls. And you definitely gain a lot if you upgrade the DAC. Of course, you probably won't feed it with an Yggdrasil or not even the Chord Mojo. But you could get the Modi Multibit at $250. So together that's $750 with the amp. It's around the same price as the Cambridge Audio CXA80. And I would choose this combo over the CXA60 if you don't mind the wires. Now what I hate about this amp is that it's huge and hefty, but it only does 30 watts and it's definitely not loud enough for larger rooms. It's like a massive bodybuilder with a tiny it's like a massive bodybuilder with chicken legs. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, they could have just removed the DAC and made it louder, which is a shame because I really like the amp side, but it just limits the use case to smaller rooms and efficient speakers, so I've been audiobold. Muscular, but with a tiny package. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, just write them down below. See you in the next video.